Hi there, I'm Catherine. Welcome to the Danaher Method. This is going to be a masterclass that is focused on rolling out our IT band, and you don't need a lot of time. So for this class, we're going to be using a toted pair of yoga balls. I like the Yoga Tune-Up brand. They're nice and soft and squishy, so they have a texture that mimic the texture of your skin. A lot of people have asked me about lacrosse balls, things like that. I don't necessarily recommend using something that is much firmer than the tissue of your skin, particularly in an area like the IT band. It actually causes the opposite to happen, where your muscles will tighten up. And what we really want to be happening is the muscles to melt over those yoga balls. And in particular, today we're going to be using the yoga balls in the tote up against the wall. This is going to be a slightly gentler, milder version of if you were to do this rolling sequence on the floor. You could certainly do exactly what we're going to do here on the floor. You can also do this with one yoga ball if you only have one at home. Okay, so we've got a few different options here, and I'll walk you through those different options as we go. So we are going to start first by just talking about some anatomy and alignment. Our IT band starts here right below the hip bone, runs down to the knee. The purpose of our IT band is to stabilize the knee. The IT band starts here at our what's called the tension fasciolata, fun to say, abbreviated TFL. So you'll hear me say that a couple times. We're going to start rolling at the TFL. The TFL is if you were to put your hands on your hips, right? So my pointer fingers at my hip bones. That TFL is right about where my thumb is going to press in. It's going to be at different places on different bodies. If you're wearing those, if you're wearing yoga pants, and there's those types of yoga pants that have the little pockets, it tends to be right about where that little pocket is. Okay. This is where the IT band begins. This muscle is also very important for rotation of the hip and also stabilization. I myself am a runner, have experienced a lot of running related injuries pre-rolling. So I pay a lot of attention to my TFL and also my IT band. And that's what we're going to be focused on today. So let's begin. We're going to start with our yoga balls in a tote, and we're going to find that TFL, right? So it also can be where there's a little divot sometimes in the hip. So here's hip bone. I'm going to be below my hip bone. I'm going to be above my greater trochanter. I'm going to be right somewhere in the center. Taking those yoga balls, placing them side by side here, and then I'm going to use the wall. I'm just going to lean up against the wall. Okay. So I'm leaning up against the wall, and then how close or how far away from the wall is really going to be up to you. Closer to the wall, we've got a little bit more support. Further against the wall, we're going to have a little bit more to lean into. Now, right away, my body, my inside leg wants to lift up. So I'm going to go ahead and lift that up. The range of motion here is not going to be huge. So as I begin to rock side to side, and you're welcome to come here with me, you just want to really be rocking along that TFL. Now, here's a place where if you want something a little bit more, which I'm kind of craving a little bit more action here on this side, I'm going to untote the yoga balls. I'll just hold the other one in one hand, and I'm going to do the same setup, only with just one yoga ball. All right, so that one yoga ball is at the hip bone, below the hip bone, excuse me, at that TFL rolling in. I like to think here like I'm drawing a line around that side waist. Now, if you were to do this on the floor, just be mindful it's going to add a little bit more pressure. So if you're somewhere in between, I want a little bit more than the wall, I want a little bit more than one yoga ball at the floor, you could go ahead and tote them up and you do the same thing just lying on your side. We'll do rock side to side a couple more times here and really be thinking about drawing that line towards the hip and then all the way back towards the glutes. We're going to tap into some of the muscles of the glutes here so that TFL connects all around those muscles of the glutes. Good. All right, you stand up and away. Take that yoga ball back, and then let's do that on the other side. Okay, so just noticing how one side now feels versus the other. I'm going to go ahead and tote these for the other side. And with rolling, you don't need a lot of time. So, I mean, it's lovely to spend, half hour or 45 minutes doing this. That is really not necessary. A couple minutes is all you need to release some of these muscles. So rolling here side to side. And again, that placement of the yoga ball. So we're below the hip bone, we're above that greater trochanter, which for some is going to be the widest point, like such as myself, it's going to be the widest point on my legs. And we're right above, just rocking side to side. And you can get a little bit creative here. So if you want to get creative with some of the placement of the leg, you can take the knee, bring it towards the chest, release it down. And if you're doing that, I would recommend using what's called a pin and stretch technique. So I've found a spot where this is like, oof, I'm feeling this. I'm going to pin that yoga ball into place. I can still breathe, still feel relaxed. And then I'm just going to gently rotate, taking a bicycle with that leg. What that's going to do is it's going to access some new tissue. It's going to open up and release some adhesions here. Oof. We'll take a couple more moments here. Really only one rule with rolling. Always want to be able to breathe, okay? So that's why in this first masterclass, we're starting at the wall, because sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, keep rolling side to side. I'm guilty of this too. We want that intensity. It's like, I'm sore. I want that intensity right here, right now. Easing into it can be helpful because that's not going to be so shocking to the system, all right? I've got a lot of videos on the Danaher Method on-demand library that take this one step further with some rolling on the ground. Let's come step away. Notice, just stand evenly on both feet. Take a breath in. Notice how this feels. Hopefully a little bit more open through the hips, okay? Now let's tote up the yoga balls. And again, if you only have one, no big deal. But if you've got two, so now we're gonna go into the IT bend, right? So we just got that starting point. Now we're gonna travel down the leg. I'm gonna adjust this camera down just a little bit. So I like to hold on to the string here if you have a toted pair. If not, you'll just lean into the wall, so you'll use your body weight. We're going to place the yoga balls below that greater trochanter, so below that thigh bone, and start to roll side to side. Okay, so we are now on the IT band. The IT band runs like a tuxedo stripe down from the hip to that knee. And we always talk about tight IT band, tight IT band. Your IT band is intended to be tight, right? It's almost like that guitar string. You want it to have tension, but you also want it to have elasticity. So that's why some things like a foam roller, which I'm pointing to, I have off. I love to do a foam roller for some of the bigger muscles, the quads, hamstrings, glutes. It can be very intense when you're on your IT band. So doing it here, you're getting the same release of any tightness that might be pulling on the knee, pulling on the hip, without that, oh my gosh, I can't move, can't breathe type feeling. So I'm just rocking here side to side. And this is going to be super simple. We're going to do it here on the first side and then on the second side, rolling along that wall at the start of that IT band. So the yoga balls are vertical, rolling. If you're ready to try something new, you can switch the orientation. Yoga balls are going to be side by side, and then down and up, down and up. So it's nice to feel the difference in sensation, right? First, we're right on top, and then we're almost hugging, we're almost framing that IT band. It's going to feel different ways. So think about taking the thigh in top half, bottom half. When you're ready to shift to the bottom half, let's go back to that first orientation, one on top of the other, leaning into the wall. We're now closer to the knee. We're not on the knee. We're roughly 2 inches above the knee. Just don't want to roll on that knee, rocking side to side. If we are standing on one foot, so if that's not comfortable for you, by all means, have a chair next to you for a little bit of balance. And if you were to be on the ground, you do the same setup, you just be lying down on your side. Switch the orientation of those yoga balls, and we're now vertical. Or excuse me, we're now horizontal. And again, I like to lift my bottom foot and really lean into this. Oof. You can pin the yoga balls in place, bend and extend. Beautiful. Alrighty, getting what you need off of this ITB. And then let's go ahead and step off. Now, in putting all the weight on the outside leg, it might have built some tension. So let's go ahead and just take a quick ankle to knee stretch. You can lean against the wall, to stretch that out before we go ahead and roll that side. Pressing into the thigh if that feels good, flexing that top foot, and then switching sides. This is the side we just rolled. Good. Then to round this out, let's even it out on the other side now, rolling the IT band on that other side. Starting first in that top half with the yoga balls, one on top of the other. I'm holding on to that little string. And you'll notice kind of right away, ooh, this feels good, ooh, this doesn't feel good. So sometimes, and even when I've been doing this for a long time, right, I'll lean into it on my hip bone. That's not so comfortable, right? So then just make any adjustments that you need to get as comfortable as you can here, right? We are rolling on our IT band, so it's not gonna be the most comfortable thing in the world, but you wanna be able to breathe. Noticing one side tighter than the other. Ooh, which for me, big time this side. Switching up that orientation. So now having the yoga balls vertical, down and up. And PS, I even feel this as I'm just doing this with my hand. It's like a little massage. So again, you don't need a lot of time here. Down and up. Exploring as you like at your own pace. We're going to travel now to that bottom half of the thigh, right? So shifting the yoga balls down, rolling a little bit closer here. It can feel nice to have the foot on the ground if this is really tight. So don't feel like there's pressure to lift that bottom leg if that doesn't feel good for you. If it does feel good for you, certainly feel free. You could pin those yoga balls in place. You could bend and extend. That's going to release around that knee. So if there's ever any misalignment, things pulling in a direction where they shouldn't be, this is going to help to open that up. And then our final thing will just be to switch the orientation of that, those yoga balls. So bringing them down here. Oops. And by the way, bonus points if they've the yoga balls have fallen to the ground. Whenever I teach a class, I always say it's good luck. It's like when a bell rings, rolling through that knee. Continuing to breathe here, continuing to feel that softening. And then when you're feeling ready, we'll close this out. Go ahead and step away from that side of the wall. You can put your yoga balls down, and let's finish with an ankle to knee stretch. So make it super gentle, bring your butt up against the wall, crossing ankle to knee here, sitting back on the heels. Maybe roll out that ankle. Take a nice deep breath in, and then let's cross legs. So not a lot of time here, about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, releasing those hips, releasing that IT band. This is a great thing to do before a run, after a day of sitting, before a day of sitting. You get the idea. I'm Catherine. This is the Danaher Method. Feel free to check out many more rolling videos and other workouts at our on-demand library. Thank you.